Next up is overcoming negative self-talk. Just casually, just completely get rid of your negative self-talk. Not what I mean. What I mean is argue. Welcome to part 2 on our couplet on habits. Last week we talked about building good habits and what they are, and today we're going to talk about breaking bad habits. Let's go. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Lifehack Show, where we help you hit your big, beautiful goals. I'm your host Jade, and last week I broke a world record with the amount of resources that I dropped in one video. So this video will be much chiller, but I want to do a bit recap and I want to talk about what we're going to run through, and then we're going to get into the 7 ways that you can break bad habits. For everyone who is new to the channel or who hasn't seen my previous video, we talked about how habits are formed, and it is actually a very simple psychological process called a habit loop. First, there is a trigger, and then there is a routine, and then there is a reward. So there is a trigger that causes the behavior to unfold, then there's the routine, which is the behavior itself, and finally we have the reward that reminds your brain that it's good and we should totally do it again. That is how habits are made, and that is how we can break them. There are a lot of options in regards to getting rid of a bad habit. You may already have one in mind. I know Justin did a video on this recently. If you want to go watch that, I found it very interesting. But what I want to tell you right now is that all your habits are subjective. So all of the things that I'm going to talk about may or may not apply to your habit specifically. I'm just trying to give you a wide range so that you can apply to your bad habit so you can best defeat it. Right, so topics that I actually talked about in my previous video, in the good habits video, actually apply here to things like finding great accountability, starting small, preparing to fail, changing your environment, and don't go overboard. All of these do still apply to breaking bad habits as well. So go watch that, and that's like extra notes. So they actually have 14 ways that you can use to break bad habits, but we're going to go into 7 other ones today. In the previous video, I talked about how I needed to take up stretching and yoga as a good habit. So for this video, I'm going to walk you through a bad habit that I need to get rid of, and that is negative thinking about myself, specifically around failure. I've grown up with a very high expectation of myself, like Taylor Swift level expectation, and I've found that the feeling of failure is quite strong. So it'd be nice to do like a psychological one, and then I'm going to talk about a physical one, things like smoking or nail picking. So I'm going to give you a lot of options as we talk through this, but let's get into it. The 7 ways that you can help break a bad habit. If you are enjoying this video, by the way, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. We are putting videos out every single week to help you live your best life and achieve your goals. All right, let's go. Let's start with identifying triggers, because this is habit stopping 101. What is triggering your behavior to unfold? Remember, it is trigger, routine, reward. We want to talk about the trigger part of that. So for me, with feeling like a failure, it's caused by social media. I go on social media and I see people being all successful and happy and stuff, and then I feel like a failure because I'm not as successful or cool, etc. And now I know this, now that I know that social media is the cause of these feelings, I can actually do something about it. So I can clean up my social media feed, I can make sure that I'm safe on social media, always be safe on social media, and I can stop myself being triggered to have that mental routine. Now, you might not know what your trigger is, and that is fine. So this is what I suggest you do if you don't know what your trigger is. Open your phone, open a little notes app, and make a micro journal. Every time you catch yourself doing this habit, write down what's going on, where are you, what are you doing, how do you feel, just make a little note, and then every time you do it, you will make more notes, and then you'll finally be able to find a correlation between each one, and then you'll know what your trigger is, and then we can actually do something about it. Now, this can be exceptionally difficult if it's an emotional based one like boredom or stress, but we're going to talk about that later on. But first, we're going to focus on your why. I mentioned this a bit in my previous video, but your why is going to be so important to breaking habits, because eventually it's going to get boring, it's going to be difficult, and you are not going to want to do it. And your why is going to help keep you grounded and keep you going. In my previous video, I suggested a PDF that we have, which I'll link in the description box again. But if you want another resource, Simon Sinek is very good. He's got like websites and blogs and books, and he is great at finding your why. So if you do still need help with that, go check him out. But the biggest problem you're going to have when trying to break a habit is conveniently forgetting your why. And because this happens to me all the time, and I'll be like, I don't even know why I'm doing this, is a very common statement. So you have to remind yourself pretty much constantly, and that helps by just spreading little reminders out everywhere, like post-it notes on the fridge. Let's talk about what I do, because it's weird. So I use an actual picture of a tiger to remind me that I'm not a failure, and success is just chipping away and keep going no matter what anyone thinks of you. And for some reason, I picture that as a tiger. So I have tigers everywhere. And I even have them on my lock screen. Your lock screen is the absolute best place to have a little reminder of what you want to do. And you don't have to use tigers, because I know that's weird. You can always have like a pretty picture and it just says, I choose not to smoke. You can have whatever helps remind you and keeps you focused, but whatever your why is, make it visual and keep it around so you don't forget what it is when times get tough. Your why is going to keep you going when everything gets boring and tough and annoying and you're just so over it. Going back to that base core desire to change is going to be very powerful. So get it everywhere. Find a way to make it pretty and cool and interesting and just have it everywhere. Maybe not tigers. Replacing your habit with a new one is the most recommended way to get rid of a bad habit. Smoking is a fantastic example for this. Instead of smoking, people often vape or chew gum. And this is an amazing starter pistol. And I want to talk about more of the underlying emotional issues later. But for now, I want to talk about how you can switch your habits up. So, what is your habit? What is your habit? Is it physical? Is it emotional? If it's physical, like biting your nails, do you want to switch it up and try knitting? Weird example, I know, but it's all I can think of. So for me, if I have feelings of failure or I have that thought pattern, I can switch it up and I can daydream about succeeding, because I think daydreaming is a great tool to help fix your brain. If you need a habit, a great habit to replace a previous one that's actually very easy to incorporate into your life, try practicing gratitude as a good habit. So if that trigger happens and the routine has started, switch it up and start practicing gratitude instead. You can keep a journal, you can create an Instagram channel, you can just message someone, you can be kind, you can tell someone you appreciate them to their face. Practicing gratitude will only make your life better in so many ways, and it's a really positive thing, so your brain will be very rewarded once it happens. So try practicing gratitude to replace some of these bad habits. It won't always work. Again, this is subjective, but it could help you with some of the more like mental, emotional problems rather than the physical ones. So instead of like biting your nails and practicing gratitude, not sure that will work. But again, it depends on what your habit is and what works for you. But it is always great to incorporate more gratitude into your life. Change your social circle. Now, in a previous video, I talked about how you can change your environment to streamline it to make your new habit easier than your regular routine, but I didn't talk about your social circle. If you want to quit smoking, stop hanging out with your smoker friends. And if you want to stop feeling like a failure, stop hanging out with people who make you feel that way. Your social circle defines you. You know that thing where it says you're a combination of the 5 people you hang out with? Hang out with people who inspire you, people that you want to be like. Find them and spend more time with them. And I'm not saying just go and ditch all your friends and find a bunch of new ones. I'm just saying if you want to beat this bad habit, it helps to get away from people that are politely but really trying to encourage you to keep it. So if you're smoking and you hang out with smoker friends, they are not going to want you to quit because they don't want to quit. So they will try and get you to smoke again. That isn't helpful for breaking out bad habits. So mix it up and find people that don't smoke and are more interested in what you want to achieve and who you want to be. Again, I'm not saying ditch all your friends, I'm just saying mix it up a bit. Next up is overcoming negative self-talk. Just casually, just completely get rid of your negative self-talk. Not what I mean. What I mean is argue. Argue with that voice in your head that constantly puts you down. Ask it, is that actually true? Is that actually factual? Does that actually matter? And then when it says, hey, you suck, just say, actually, I don't. I'm not perfect. I'm just myself and I'm moving forward. I'm doing the best that I can every single day. So shut up. The more you argue with it, the stronger that your good positive wolf will begin. You know the fable? There's 2 wolves. There's a positive and a negative one, and whichever one you feed gets bigger. It works like that, except picture some tigers, because we're on tigers this week. If you feed your big positive tiger, eventually it will become louder than the negative voice in your head. And most of the time, we've been feeding our negative tigers for way too long. They will always be there. Never think that you can completely eradicate negative thinking, because not only is it biology, but it's balance. You need positive and negative. So just feed the big positive tiger, and challenging negative self-thought always starts with the way that you talk to yourself. Things like saying, I can't, make you feel like a victim, but saying, I choose not to, make you feel like a champion. It is all about changing that mindset from victim to champion, from powerless to in control. You are choosing this direction. You are choosing to get rid of this bad habit. Someone else isn't responsible for you or is saying that you have to do this. You've made this choice yourself. So take personal responsibility for it and say things like, I choose not to make this. It's not because of somebody else. It's because I'm choosing to make this decision and I'm going to roll with it. And I know it may seem like an endless battle at first, having that negative voice constantly like meh, 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 but the more you argue and the more you correct and the more you change the narrative in your head, the bigger that happy, positive tiger will be. This one is a bit cheeky because I did have it in my other video, but it's so important that I want to go over it again, and that is taking one step at a time. Do not go all in, do not go overboard, do not try and play catch up. Just do everything one day at a time. Wake up, do the best that you can, forgive yourself if you failed, and reward yourself if you did great, and then wake up and try it again. This is a marathon, not a sprint. You just have to go through every single thing one day at a time. If you find yourself often failing or struggling with this, it may be because you set the bar too high. For example, if you've been smoking 20 cigarettes a day and you've decided you want to quit and you want to break that habit, but you decide to go completely cold turkey, but you end up smoking 5 cigarettes a day anyway because it's too difficult, you've set the bar too high. Bring it back down and just set it to like 5 cigarettes a day and just try and get through that day each day. And the better and more experienced you'll be, it'll be easier to break the habits as you go on. It is a marathon, not a sprint, and don't let the expectation of what you should be and what others have done stress you out into making the new habits too difficult to break. Make sure it's easy and enjoyable. You are not perfect. You are just a human being. So don't rush, don't go overboard, don't take giant leaps forward. Just take small, manageable steps each day, because goals are achieved by small, compounded effort over time, not by taking huge leaps forward, because it just takes that step and then you stop. So small steps each single day. Don't overstress. Now let's talk about the biggest topic of all, which is dealing with your feelings. A lot of these bad habits can be triggered by things like stress or boredom or loneliness or sadness. There are a lot of feelings underneath these bad habits that are causing this behavior and this routine to unfold. I actually want you to deal with your feelings, and there are so many things that you can do, like journaling or hiring coaches, or there is like a plethora of things that you can do to help you process through your emotions, but you really have to actually process them. If you are biting your nails because you're stressed, reduce the stress in your life. If you keep running back to unhealthy situations because you're afraid of being alone, face that fear. If you have a bad habit rooted in guilt and shame, forgive yourself and let it go and move forward. You have to deal with these feelings underneath, because they will only ever have a deep-rooted grip on your bad habits. Once you loosen their grip, it is much easier to get rid of a bad habit. And I know that's not quite what anyone expected me to say, because when you go with bad habits, it's all like, oh, switch it up, try new things. But this is actually a huge driving force of a bad habit, is the feeling behind it. So if you deal with your feelings in a healthy way, it will be so much easier to get rid of these bad habits. And again, it's another thing that you can only benefit from, is dealing with your feelings, because we have this terrible life choice of ignoring our feelings and pretending that they don't exist. Like, we ignore our stress, we ignore our sadness, and we just try and keep busy, or we take care of other people and hope that other people will take care of us. But it's time to take personal responsibility for your life and your choices, and to say, nope, I'm going to deal with my feelings in a healthy way, whether that is through journaling or mindfulness or meditation. Whatever option that works for you, go and do it, and it will really help loosen the bad habit that you've got yourself caught into. Again, it's a very unique one, but I think it's the most powerful. I hope you enjoy my tips. Leave a comment, which one are you going to try? Which one do you think is going to be best for you? And let us know if you want to see anything else from us. We love creating videos that will actually help you live your best life. Thanks for watching, everyone. We have loads of videos on the channel on how to defeat all of your goals and be the champion of your life, and that free PDF that I mentioned earlier is linked right next to me. Have an absolutely amazing day. Bye!